Recording in progress.
Thank you very much, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, for leading this wonderful bhajan. I really loved the translation. It was really yeah, like getting home, to my safe space. Thank you for making me come back to my settle in myself, so to say. Thank you, and welcome everyone to yet another discussion on this wonderful topic of 26 qualities of Vaishnava. Before we do that, I just want to chant some Mangala Charana prayers, and it's going to be a little bit different in terms of the structure, but I'll explain after we do the prayers. मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाशनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। जय श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्वाप्तिदं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहन रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहनललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्दा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं विधिनातारिणम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So let's get started. So I'm in the presenter view, so I won't be able to see anyone who is, in the chat message, but I will try to switch between the presenter view and the other ones. But if anybody can,
Yeah,
Jagannath
I'll
Gopal,
interject if
yeah,
there are
thank you.
chat messages.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so today's topic is, so last week we saw about Kripalu, merciful quality of a Vaishnava, out of the first out of 26. This week, we are going to see the second quality. It's called Akrita Droha, non-defiant or does not make anyone his enemy. So we're going to see some excerpts from the life of Yudhishthir Maharaj. Just one disclaimer is that it was somewhat not easy or even flowing for me, to be honest, while preparing for this class. Because there were so many topics in my mind that was conflicting, and I kind of went with the reverse hypothesis, like I was considering him not, and then I was proving myself wrong. So bear with me while we were there, because I have to be convinced myself completely before I can do this. So I had to do a little bit of a reverse thing. So let's get started. I also mentioned that it's going to be a little bit different structure in that we are not going to read Bhagavatam verses separately and then the class separately, like we used to do before. We used to do in this Tuesday Sanghas. The verses are embedded inside my slides. So when we get there, I request people to raise their hands to read the verses. They're not much, but it'll be nice to have like this group involved in the reading the Bhagavatam verses so that it purifies us. So with that, let's get started. First of all, why read about these qualities, right? So I know that Jagannath Gopal Prabhu and Soham Prabhu both mentioned this, but it's good to reiterate why are we doing what we are doing, so that we understand the purpose and so that it will help us to get deeper into the discussion. So the first thing is that our vision of the world is a reflection of our own internal state. So what does this mean? So which means that everybody, because of our own unique internal state, we have a filter through which we see things. For example, a parent who is stressed or who's under a mental depression or a pressure, they may treat their child for a simple task such as spilling a milk um, by yelling at them. Whereas a calm parent or a parent who is more centered in their approach might just wipe it up and move on. So someone feeling insecure may see every criticism, every comment as a criticism, but someone who is like a confident person may hear every comment as a feedback on how they can improve themselves. So for this, it's important to know that what are the good qualities and of these devotees that we are going to read each week, so that it helps us shape our internal state. We should be like a bumblebee. Prabhupada always states that in many of the purpose, we should be like a
Haribol, we
bumblebee.
are not seeing your slides.
Oh, Krishna, Krishna. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. So maybe what I'll do is I won't do this. Maybe I'll just do the presenter view. Maybe just play from. Okay. So this is where we started. And this is where we are. Is that okay?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, now we can see. You can go back to the previous slide to show what you are saying. Yeah, okay. Okay. And now we are seeing.
Okay, maybe just hold on 1 second. I just want to get rid of this presenter view. And okay, that explains why I'm not able to see other people. Okay. All right. So this is what I explained about our vision of the world is a reflection of our internal state, and we should become like a bumblebee looking at the honey-like good qualities of a Vaishnava. Not becoming like a, as opposed to a, anybody remembers? We are always compared with two different insects. One, what we should strive to be, one we should not. Many of Prabhupada's purports state that bumblebee versus a
Fly.
fly, yes. So why bumblebee? Because it always goes to the essence of a flower. It goes straight to the honey, sucks it, and gets the goodness. Whereas a fly always looks at where are the sores or open sores or open wounds, and then try to eat it. So why we should become like a bumblebee? There are many examples. It's stated in even in the life of Jesus Christ, is that there was a supposedly a prostitute who where the people were throwing stones at her because of her bad character, or supposedly bad character. And then Jesus Christ stopped everybody and said, those who have sinned, those who have not sinned only can throw stones at her. Then everybody dropped their stones because they have they realize that everybody has sinned in their own ways, and we cannot judge others by their outwardly by their by what they exhibit. And then also there is this story of a brahmana and and a prostitute again, where they are living either across from each other, their houses. So this prostitute always looks up towards the life of this Brahmana. Every day he gets up, he does his Sandhya Vandan, he worships, he chants mantras, and he recites the Vedic scriptures, and he lives a very pious life. And she's always looking at this Brahmana and glorifying him and thinking always about his good qualities. Whereas this Brahmana always looking at, whenever he looks at this prostitute, he has a very distasteful thought in his head, like, why am I even looking at this person, or how could she do this, or what a wretched life she's living. So they both, at the end of their lives, um, there was the justice made, and Brahmana ends up in a hell, and the prostitute ends up in a heaven. And then Brahmana is wondering, why I lived a pious life. Why am I in the hell? And for that, the response was that even though he lived a pious life externally, internally, the internal state was that he was always cursing the other person, or he was always meditating on the bad qualities of the the prostitute. Whereas and the same, on the other side, when the prostitute ended up in heaven, she was questioning, I lived such a wretched life. Why am I in the heaven? And the response that she was given was that even though externally you were not doing a righteous thing, but internally you were always meditating on the good quality of that Brahmana. So you've obtained all those good qualities yourself. So it's very important to meditate on these good qualities as we read them each week. So it is important for us to assimilate it as much as possible. And of course, when we surrender to our lives to our Guru and Krishna, they've accepted not because of our great deeds, or not because of we did so many good things in life, but because in spite of our faults. It's not because, but it's in spite of our faults. And finally, it is a sign of an advanced devotee to look at our own faults, right? So it is um, kind of getting to that anartha nivritti stage where we can learn from our own mistakes and get deeper. So with this, let's dive into today's topic. So there are two definitions given for akrita droha. One is called as, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 2278-80, it is stated as one who is non-defined. Akrita meaning not done or not committed, and droha meaning malice, harm, or defiant. So akrita droha means one who is non-defiant. That is the one definition. And the other definition is that ajata shatru, one whose enemies are not born or does not make anyone his enemy. His reference is made in the purport of 5.8.12 in Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the shloka itself of 1.10.6, first canto, 10th chapter, 6th verse. So ajata means not born or unborn, and shatru means enemy, one whose enemies are not born. So we're going to do justice to both of these definitions because they are mentioned here, and we are basing our qualities based on these two verses. So I was trying to work around like how to make justice to both of these. So I hope we can all discover this together, and it's not like a one-way approach, but if you can all also pitch in as if you are convinced about this or otherwise. So Akrita Droha reflects an inner character, whereas Ajata Shatru means an external result. So inner character means I should not do any harm to others. I should not be envious. I should not do, betray others and so on. Whereas an external result is because of my inner character, I am changing something in the outer world, right? I am not creating enemies. That is the external result. So we're going to see both of these, how inner um, affects the outer or makes a change in the outer. One does not harm or act with envy or betray, and no one develops enmity towards them. Concerns about one's own purity. Sorry for that typo. The other one concerns with the atmosphere created by that purity. It's an external. So, based on this, I would like to do a small activity. Um, so, I will guide as we go along. I just wanted to get that. So, the idea of this activity is to assimilate these two concepts, one of the inner out of the and the other of the outer or external, so that before we dive into the scripture itself, these two definitions are clear in our heads. So the short activity is that this is a scenario. So each one and every one of you, you can answer this. So the scenario is that you have been coordinating flower festival decorations for weeks. Okay. And you stayed up late several nights making garlands and flower dresses and decorations. During the final meeting, meaning the after the festival, all that, another devotee says in front of everyone, now when I say this, I want you to tell or put it in the chat, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay, when you read the next two sentences, I want you to tell like an immediate reaction that comes to your mind, not a processed one, if that's possible. All game? Okay.
Yes, Mataji. Yep.
So honestly, the decorations look too simple this year. Maybe we should have asked someone more experienced. So what is the immediate response?
Okay. Ask someone more experienced from next time.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Why don't you do it next time? Yeah. Disappointed. Yeah. Okay. Anybody? Yeah. I'd be too hurt to say anything. This is a little process. Do Galia. Wanted to keep it simple. Yeah, this also look processed.
Mataji, facial expressions will give Galia. Hmm.
That's true. That's true. Yes, yes.
कौन
It
बोल
depends
रहा है?
on. Oh, sorry, क्या है?
Yeah, it
Depends.
depends who is saying now. Like if my peer or someone says, maybe I'll say something, but like if the head pujari is coming and saying, I'm not going to say anything.
But what will be your like immediate? Oh, how can they say that? I put in my so much sweat and blood. What? I did not expect this. Like these are the things that instantaneously comes. Yeah, maybe that would have been better, but I like simple.
But
Okay, that also looks a
you should
little
have
bit process, but it's good.
you
Yes, Prabhu.
you should have given me feedback during the process that this is too simple instead of telling me afterwards that this is too simple.
Okay.
Maybe something like that.
That person is envious. Okay.
For me, the immediate reaction would be like, as I said, and it would be the body language, like the heartbeat increasing and face getting warm, like not expecting those things. Instead of saying anything immediately, it would be like more of like
Okay.
those things.
True. Yes. Yeah. Really? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Those are the things. Immediate reaction would not be a good feeling inside, but may not say, okay. Okay. Yes, Madhji. Yes. Um,
One more thing, Mataji, just before we get into the deeper discussion, like I'll develop a perception about the person who said it. I will not wholeheartedly give myself to that person or wholeheartedly associate with that person after that.
Yes, right. So this is exactly where we are, seeing the difference is that why Yudhishthir Maharaj, how, what were some of the things that were done to him and how he kept his cool, right? So that's exactly what we're going to see. But before we head to that, so this is what I was asking. So what would an Akrita Droha response look like? Right? So, meaning that to clarify it, it's like, not suppressing the feelings, but not acting with malice, right? So, some of the things that we could say are thank you for the feedback, or let's talk after the meeting, or just internally staying calm, right? We heard about so many characters about a divine person, or someone who's dear to Krishna being equipoised in happiness and distress. So staying calm, right? Not retaliating. So Akrita Droha means I refuse to harm at this moment. Does that make sense? So not having any malice in our heart, right? I refuse to harm have any harm done at this moment. What would Ajata Shatru? Thank you for the view. What could I have done? Yes, that's coming up, Prabhu. Yes, you're already there. um, what would an Ajata Shatru response look like is that one that might actually dissolve the tension outwardly, right? So this is Akrita Droha is what we are internally processing our mental setup, right? Once we hear this unexpected stimulus from outside, how we process it internally. Ajata Shatru, more like one might actually dissolve the tension, harm to myself, to other person, or to both. Yeah, does not, right? You mean does not harm?
No, I was just clarifying, Mataji. You said I refuse to harm at this moment.
Oh,
The
yeah,
other person, to myself, or to both.
correct. Oh, yes, absolutely, yes. So, how does that response look like? Anybody want to take a guess? Ajata Shatru type of response. So one will be like, thank you for the feedback, or let's talk after the meeting, just trying to regroup your own self, right? How would an Ajata Shatru, meaning dissolve the tension kind of response, look like? One, I think Krishnan Prabhu's already mentioned, what could I have done better? Like what Jagannath Gopal Prabhu expressed, right? That is exactly what we would also do. Oh, next time say I'm not going to be friends with this person. Right? That is the usual, behavior. And every time we meet that person, that thing is going to come in front or in between us, saying, you said that to me, right? So how do we avoid that? That is the Ajata Shatru kind of a response we are looking for. Anybody, any guesses?
I really value your feedback, Prabhu. I'll try to do better from next time.
Yeah, I like it. But let's next time work together. Yes, perfect. Yes, involving that person, right? Then that will, because now you're working not with your ego, right? But you're working for the betterment of the common cause. Okay, how to make this whole festival better for the Lord. Not it's not about our ego or our things, right? Sorry, I'm bringing up this flower festival, but that is kind of like putting things in. It's just upcoming festival for us here, who's living in New York City. So Yeah, I
You're
hope
preparing the organizers, the decorators for a real scenario, possible scenario.
we'll be prepared for everything. Yes. Um, I mean, this can be extrapolated to any kind of external stimuli that we get on a day-to-day basis, even from our managers, from our coworkers, from our, spouses, kids, peers, whoever we meet, right? So yeah, some of the responses would be already Suman Mataji and Krishnan Prabhu has mentioned. So I appreciate your desire for excellence. You appreciate them, right? So these are words. So unless we do that akrita droha, the ajata shatru will not be genuine, right? We have to have that inner processing to reflect the outer external result, to impact the external result. So would you like to help enhance it, right? I heard you say this. Would you like to help enhance it? I mean, the genuinity will show in your body language if you've processed yourself internally first. So pretty much to just kind of put a seal to the whole topic of discussion is that Akrita Droha prevents the fire from spreading, right? But Ajata Shatru brings water to cool the room. Does that make sense? So the fire that is inside us, that ego that's ignited by ego or envy or some kind of a misalignment of the soul that happens, that we keep feeding it, and then it spreads like a wildfire. It allows that spread of the wildfire to stop by doing the Akrita Droha, and Ajata Shatru actually throws water on it to cool down completely, right? So yeah, any thoughts, anything that comes to your mind before we move to the
So an interesting thing, the term Ajat Shatru, right? In teachings of Lord Kapila, there is that verse,
yeah
qualities of a devotee. Not even qualities, like the ornaments of a devotee.
yeah
Bhushana, sadhu bhushan. So Titikshava karunika surida sarva dehinam ajata shatravah shanta sadhavah sadhu bhushana. Like that.
right
So it's like I guess so. So I'm just trying to understand. Are we saying that not just the internal, but even the external is important in terms of trying to diffuse the situation?
yeah
Because
yes yeah
like,
I mean, it is not always like some things that we can effect. We
mm,
are not like king, like Yudhishthir Maharaj,
mm,
where we can impact like thousands at this, by our character. But where we can make an impact, I think we can strive to. Not everything is, not at every situation, but situations where we can. Yes,
right,
that is going to help us to develop this particular character. Yeah.
maybe.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
I posted it on the chat
Yes, I'm
actually.
reading. What if the comment is coming from envy? What if the person, yes, commenting is trying to show us in the bad light? Yeah. So that is completely possible. With Yudhishthira Maharaj, we will see that whoever has done wrong to him, they are not like sages. They are corrupt people. They are like the real bad people, right? Like Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra, and they are all evil-minded. So it is all coming from a bad place. But still, right, it's more so to stand up and and you know and align ourselves internally first, and then um, make them as our not as our enemy. It's called for. We will see in the course of the lecture in this class how Yudhishthira Maharaj did what he did. And so maybe that will show some light. Yes, it's most likely the case that people are coming from a place of a bad intention or a not so good intention, or throw us under the bus, or put us in a bad light because of some envy or some other thing that's going on, but how to deal with those. Yes. Thank you for highlighting that one. Anybody else? Okay, we can move on, I think. So, okay, so I think we have, I think we've said this, in real life, which level do we usually reach? The first victory is over our own malice. The highest victory is transforming the atmosphere. So, Yudhishthira Maharaj. So, just some characteristics. So, Dharmo Vivardhati Yudhishthira Kirtanena. Whoever remembers Yudhishthira, his intelligence and dharma will increase. So, this is from the scriptures. And Yudhishthira was born with a purpose to establish dharma. Dharma samstapanarthaya. So, Lord Krishna, the whole, the Kurukshetra war was fought just so that Yudhishthira Maharaj can become the king. So, can be established because he is a representation of Dharmaraj. So, in essence, to establish dharma, meaning to establish, in order to establish dharma, a king like Yudhishthira Maharaj is required. So that is whole purpose of his birth. And Yudhishthira Maharaj's mindset leaned towards feminine morality, whereas forgiveness was considered the supreme characteristic of a living entity. Like in every episode, we will see that how Yudhishthira Maharaj kept on forgiving people, right? When Duryodhana wanted to check out Indraprastha after the Rajasuya Yajna, right? What did he do? He came into the Indraprastha palace, and it was built by Maya Danava. It was like a very magical place, right? The floors were so magical that sometimes it will look like as the water is there. So Duryodhana would lift his dhoti and then walk, but actually there is no water. It's like a mirage of a water. And where the floors would be like looking normal, but actually there's water in there. So he would actually not walk normally, but then he would end up falling in. So all the princesses and the queens were assembled, including Draupadi and also Bhima. They would all make fun of Duryodhana by laughing at them, but Yudhishthira checked them. Yudhishthira said, don't make fun like that. It's not nice, right? So he always had that center point of view. He's very high on this morality scale, so to say. So he forgave. So we will see what are the things that he forgave. Who are the people who forgave for what things that they did, how bad those things were. I mean, many of you are all aware of all the things, the entire Mahabharata story, but we're just going to go through kind of in the essence. Yeah. So first we're going to look at Akrita Droha as an internal character. And then we will go to the Ajatashatru. So these are the incidents that happened in the Mahabharata. It is not especially mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but it's very important because we are talking about Yudhishthira Maharaj. It's important to see how he exhibited this characteristic. The house of lack. We all know how he through Vidura, he suspected the trap, but quietly entered the flammable palace to avoid the open defiance of Dhritarashtra's invitation, meaning that he exited through the help of Vidura's men, but he did not make a big scene. Hey, how did you do this? How can you trap us inside a house of lack? And he did not make a big deal out of it, even though the other Pandavas wanted to. The first dice game, he accepted the challenge and the subsequent laws of the kingdom because his elders called him to the game, and the rules of Dharma forbade a king from refusing a challenge. Right? So these are his internal, shows his more morally and ethical character he is internally. A 13-year exile, he strictly followed the terms of the exile. He could have, any time in that 13 years, he could have just said, I mean, even Bhima and Arjuna, they were telling him, why we have to put up with this 13 years? Let's just go and fight now, right? Why we have to endure this 13 years of vanvas, right? But he said no, let's just, because he doesn't want any conflict. That's the vow of compliance that he had made in his mind, that he will not go against um, the um, the words of the elders. If the elders have said it, let's not have any conflict, because the conflict is the ultimate reason why the cause of the war. So that is why he was avoiding it. But it didn't actually work, right? Later on, the war was inevitable because of the divine plan. And choosing Nakula's life, right? When offered the life of only one brother towards the end, he chose his stepmother Madri's son to ensure that he was non-malicious toward any of his parents' lineages. This was one of the stories towards the end where, if you were to give up one of the, or if you were to save one brother of yours, who would that be? He did not choose, his own blood brothers, so to say, but he chose a step brother, which is Madri's son, brother. So because he wanted to be fair, he wanted to be not malice or any kind of um, greed or any negative influences to affect him. The Virata kingdom, he served as a humble courtier to a lesser king, enduring a physical strike from King Virata that drew blood without retaliating or revealing his identity. So I mean, he pretty much, he withheld his emotions for the greater good. Peace mission, he sent Sanjaya and later Krishna with a plea for only 5 villages, choosing non-defiance over the just war he was rightfully entitled to fight. So these show that his internal character as being non-defiant and non-malice. I mean, there are plenty more such as this, but I think this would be like something that exhibits his character as a um, internal setup as a Akrita Droha. I think there is some. It's a wonderful example. Thank you. So getting back to our mainstream Bhagavatam, is that so there is a post-war crisis from which the Bhagavatam starts from the about the description of what happened to the mindset of King Yudhishthir, is that he was grieving, right? That's how it starts in the Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 8. Right. So, can somebody read this translation? And in the purport, we will just read just from the second sentence, if possible. Yes, Jagannath.
King Yudhishthir said, "Oh my lord, oh my lord." Okay,
Yeah,
first
that's how it
reading.
is.
Yeah. Oh my lord, I'm the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men.
So you can read from the second, the purport.
A second line, yeah. Maharaj Yudhishthir, as the most pious king of the world, takes for himself the responsibility for killing such a huge number of living beings because the battle was fought to reinstate him on the throne. The body is, after all, meant for others. While there is life in the body, it is meant for the service of others. And when it is dead, it is meant to be eaten by dogs and jackals or maggots. He is sorry because for such a temporary body, such a huge massacre was committed.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So he was grieving so much, so imagine, right? So the whole thing, it's even mentioned here how many Akshonis were there on both sides, and how many lives were lost. And Prabhupada mentions about 47 to 50 lakhs of soldiers to altogether, and then only 11 people survived the whole thing. I think about 8 on the Pandava side and 3 on the on the Kaurava side. That's it. Out of these lakhs and lakhs of people, and what to say about the, these are just infantry, right? There is this elephants, there is chariots, cavalry. um, all of them are dead, all of them are done. And imagine the wrath, right? I mean, like the of um, so much devastation that has happened. And put if trying to put ourselves in Yudhishthir Maharaj's situation, right? All this so that he can become a king. Right? Imagine how much weight that would be on his shoulders to bear this loss. It's like incredible loss. He was even at one point thinking, when Duryodhana was a king, everybody was happy. Everybody's alive. Everybody was there. And yeah, we had some enmity, but everybody was alive and happy. Our teachers were there. Our uncles, aunts, met, in-laws, everybody was there happy. But now it is such a devastation for what? So that I can become a king. So that is his mindset. That is this grieving point, right? Next, somebody else also raised their hands. Please, I forgot who that was. You can read. Yes, Prabhu. So on, Prabhu.
I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all these sins. Purport as well, right, Mataji?
Yes, you can read from the Maharaj Yudhishthira was aware of these mass
Okay.
killings. Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj Yudhishthir was aware of these mass killings. Similarly, there were friends, parents, and preceptors also on both sides, and all of them were killed. It was simply horrible of him for him to think of such killing, and therefore he was thinking of residing in hell for millions and billions of years.
Yeah, millions and billions of years he wanted to be in hell. So that is how the weight of the situation has just, landed upon him. So, and this grief was too much. Imagine, right? Like as I said, yes. Next one. We can read both the translation and purport, somebody.
I can go, Mataji.
Yes, no. Anjali, go.
There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens, but this injunction is not applicable to me. Maharaj Yudhishthir thought that although he was not actually involved in the administration of the kingdom, which was being carried on well by Duryodhan without harm to the citizens, he caused the killing of so many living beings only for his personal gain of the kingdom from the hands of Duryodhan. The killing was committed not in the course of administration but for the sake of self aggrandizement, and as such, he thought himself responsible for all the sins.
Yes, so he's completely now thinking that yes, because of him the whole war has happened, right? So he's become unconsolable. So we move on to the next chapter in the Canto 1. Many great sages such as Vyasadev tried to pacify Yudhishthir Maharaj, but in vain. So why? Because Yudhishthir Maharaj's grief was so deep that only a greater authority could heal it. And who was that greater authority? It was none other than our Bhishma Dev, who was at that time on the deathbed in the battlefield. So Lord Krishna took Pandavas to the deathbed of Bhishma Deva. Somebody wants to read this translation?
I
Text
can
12.
read the
Yes.
Bhishma Dev said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you could souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God, and religion."
Thank you. He wanted to point out that as long as they were protected by these three important items, namely the Brahmanas, God and religion, it is in the purport itself, Brahmanas, God and religion, then there should be no cause of disappointment. Thus, Bhishma Dev encouraged Maharaj Yudhishthira to dissipate this despondency. Despondency means it's like unconsolable grief. He was despondent because he could not help being, coming out. He cannot help but to grieve at this inevitable what has happened to the aftermath of the war. So yes, the Bhishma Dev's words ultimately at this point had consoled him, and so then what happened for him to change his mind, right? So from morality to surrendering to the will. So Prabhupada gives an insight saying that Prabhupada explains that this despondency was God gifted. It showed that Yudhishthira was not a power-hungry politician. He doesn't want, oh, I want this kingdom, I'm going to usurp it, no matter what, how much ever it's been killed, and even if one person survives, I really wanted it. It's not like that. He was so non-defined to the laws of nature, right? He doesn't want to go against anybody's, like against his own nature or against anybody's words, especially of the elders, that he felt he should be punished for the violence, even though the war was fought for Krishna, right? Yudhishthira's despondencies were cured. How? When he realized that he was simply an instrument. His non-defiance evolved from guilt that I did this, I caused this, or because of me it happened, to surrender, which means Krishna did this through me, right? So that is what changed the shift in his thinking. So that is all about the Akrita Droha. Now let's move on to the Ajata Shatru, so external result, right? So we've done with one wing, we are going to the other wing. So the next following chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, has many verses on what was his, because of his exhibiting this character of Ajatashatru, how it impacted the outside world. So we're going to see that. If anybody can volunteer to read all of these verses, that will be great. Yes, Saraswati.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Dev and Lord Sri Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge, because all his misgivings were eradicated. Thus he ruled over the earth and seas and was followed by his younger brothers. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthir, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. Because of the king's having no enemy, the living beings were not at any time disturbed by mental agonies, diseases, or excessive heat or cold.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, this was the outcome, right? How is this possible, right? Like in such a reign, the king could, because of his dharmic ruling of the kingdom, that how can there be like not diseases, not heat or cold? I mean, we are actually experiencing all of this above, right? And so it shows that yes, he did stand up as an akrita droha for himself, that resulted in this outcome, right? An external result of Ajatashatru did happen, and as you can see, this was a very clear indication that one's internal conditioning can influence an impact in the external atmosphere. Of course, he's he's Dharmaraj, and he comes with a heavy, historical, lineage. But but in a small ways, we can also impact others. We cannot impact like have a huge impact as he did in the country or a kingdom, but we can have impacts in our own worlds. Like we can create smaller ripples. That is all that we can aspire for in our lives to make that kind of a change. Any thoughts, questions at this point? Any comments? Okay, can move on. So then we can see that how the next few verses from Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, we can see how he exhibits non-enmity and forgiveness. Remember, we've talked about forgiveness, like feminine forgiveness, right? That's one of the characteristics of Maharaj Yudhishthir. So we're going to see how those were all exhibited, right? I can go ahead and read one. If anybody wants to do it, you can raise your hands in the meantime.
I can go, Mataji.
Okay, sure.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, whose enemy was never born, performed his daily morning duties by praying, offering fire sacrifice to the sun god, and offering obeisances, grains, cows, land, and gold to the Brahmanas. He then entered the palace to pay respects to the elderly. However, he could not find his uncles or aunt, the daughter of King Subala. Maharaj Yudhishthir, full of anxiety, turned to Sanjay, who was sitting there, and said, "O Sanjay, where is our uncle who is old and blind? Where is my well-wisher, Uncle Vidura, and mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her sons' demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offences very seriously and, along with his wife, drown himself in the Ganges? When my father Pandu fell down and we were all small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here?"
Thank you, Prabhu. So how could, we saw in the previous slide, a couple of slides when we were discussing the Ajatashatru, how many injustices were done to them, right? The house of lac, to actually, I mean, it was just a small list, but even a bigger list would be, poisoning of Bhima and throwing him into the water, right? From there it started, like, from the childhood itself. Duryodhana was envious about Bhima and all the Pandavas, and he was causing one injustice after another, one injustice after another. How can such a person say that these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities, right? To even say this, he's not saying it just for the sake of saying. He actually is grieving, he's crying, he's going and searching every single corner of his palace. Where is Uncle Dhritarashtra? Where is Uncle Vidura? Right? And it says that in the 31st verse, one of the first thing he does after getting up and after praying is that he offers obeisances to Dhritarashtra, his uncle, and gets his blessing. So Dhritarashtra, up until Vidura came to, take him to the north to, practice penance, and so that he can be prepared for the next life. He was very comfortable staying with Yudhishthir. Imagine that his own sons fought against Yudhishthir and the Pandavas unjustly, and all kinds of things happened because Dhritarashtra gave it okay to do that because he was the king. He definitely had a say in it. It's not like Duryodhana. Of course, Duryodhana has influenced Dhritarashtra to to say yes for all of his bad, planning and divisive nature. But Dhritarashtra also wanted his son to take the kingdom, to rule over, because that he thought that, okay, if I am the king, my son should be the next king. Why should Yudhishthir become a king? That doesn't make any sense. According to them, that was the thing, and that is the whole way that he has grown up, Duryodhan and all the other Kauravas. Um, so to this person, such as this uncle, we have all our uncles. I'm sure that we all have some uncles whom we don't like, some uncles whom we don't even want to get a call from, just because something they must have done somewhere. Maybe they would have said some comment about maybe how poorly we did in our 10th exam or 12th exam, or some crazy simple, you know like a very minor thing maybe, right? But we would have had that thing, like, how could they say that to me? I prepared for my 10th exam so much, and he did not even make coffee or tea in the morning for me when I woke up. How can he pass that judgment that I could have done better, right? We have that, and we would never say, we would even never offer obeisances to them, right? But here, a complete and utter injustice had been done to this person, to Yudhishthir Maharaj, right? And he has forgiven all of them. How is this possible, right? It's because of the akrita droha nature that it does not have any malice, it does not have any betrayal or any kind of bad for that person. He has processed it. At that time, he has processed it, right? Internally, he's processed and he's forgiven them. So yes, and he's offered obeisances, and then he enters the palace. Of course, yeah. And however, he could not find his uncle. At that time, when he could not find, he was not like, good grief, it's all gone, good riddance. It's not like that. He was panically going to search every single room for Dhritarashtra. So you could see that he's really, anxiety stricken, grief stricken at that point. Yeah. So to say what he said in the last verse, that they were all our good well-wishers, alas, where they've gone from here, it is coming from a space of complete integration with himself, that did not have any 1 ounce or 1 iota of malice towards Dhritarashtra. That shows his non-defiant nature. Yes. So before talking about this, there are some, of course, controversies that I'm going to say in the next slide about Yudhishthir Maharaj itself. Of course, every character in Mahabharata, or in every prominent character, of course, have this other side where nobody can come to terms with, or not even like understand why they did what they did, right? And how, okay, everything is fine, but how could they do this, right? So I just want to open it up for discussion at this point. The controversies against the king, right? First is, why did Yudhishthira gamble his own wife, Draupadi? And why did he hesitate, or why did he hesitate to follow the Lord's instruction to lie to his teacher Drona about the killing of the elephant, um, rather than his son? Like Ashwatthama, the elephant, has died, whereas that is the truth, but he was told to lie that Ashwatthama is dead, right? So that his teacher Dronacharya would lose his stature and lose his position in the army, that he can be easily defeated. So I just wanted to open it up, like, how do we see these two in the light of Akrita Droha and Ajatashatru? What are your thoughts? If anybody wants, I can explain these two. But I'm thinking that everybody kind of knows the Mahabharata story. of how Yudhishthira Maharaj gambled, all his brothers, and finally he also gambled his own wife. It is said that he even explained or glorified each limb of Draupadi just so that the stakes will be so high. Before he kept the Draupadi as stake, like her nose, her eyes, her limbs, in front of all the elders present in that Dyuta Sabha, and it in front of the Kauravas, in front of his own brothers, he explained it. So how could we justify in our own minds? That's something we can discuss for the remaining time, and yeah. To me, this was one of the reasons why I did the negative hypothesis that I told in the in the beginning. These two are the reasons. Like for me, I'm like, yes, but so, but Prabhupada, the purports helped kind of bring the thought process back to how it was, how it should have been.
So one thought I'm thinking is just like mm, he was forced. So we often people ask, right, why did Yudhishthir even go to the gambling match? Right? But the
Yep.
reason given there is it's
Yeah.
a Kshatriya etiquette, and basically he so before even anything or any of this thing happened, when Yudhishthir was the king, initially he becomes the king, right? Like
Right.
before the gambling match and everything.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
there is that incident where Vyasadev he comes and there is some conversation and he makes a prediction, and the prediction is that there'll be a great war in the future in this kingdom, in this land, and that will wipe out so many millions of soldiers. So he makes this
Yeah.
prediction, and then
Correct.
Yudhishthir's immediate reaction to that is, okay,
Yeah.
I will make a vow right now here that
Correct.
I will not disobey any of my elders. Because
Correct.
his understanding is if he doesn't disobey his elders, then there is no question of any disagreement or conflict, and so we'll avoid the war. So
Correct.
that was his thinking. So then that reason is given that because Dhritarashtra invited him for the
Correct.
gambling. It
Correct.
was an invitation by an elder, so he could not refuse. So,
Correct.
for the first question here, I'm thinking that something similar must have happened. May not be elders, but maybe he may have been put in a situation where he was forced to gamble his wife away. Because remember, everything was taken away from him. He had nothing.
Mm.
He had literally nothing. So,
Mm.
and then he had to like keep playing,
Mm.
I guess. And then, yeah, I mean, somebody can argue saying that why did he even have to keep playing there itself? Take out the sword and finish, chop off everybody. That is one. But then again, that is
Yeah.
not the code of ethics that time. Uh,
Correct. Yeah. And Yudhishthira will be the last person to do
exactly,
such a thing. Yes.
exactly.
A good thought process, Prabhu. Just want to see if we can dive a little bit more deeper. Yes, this is a great uh, s- yes, he did make a vow of compliance at that point. Um, when there was some prediction that was made that in a decade from now, Kala, the inevitable time, will wipe out all of these people, and the inevitable war will come. But he wanted to somehow avoid that war, and he thought that the conflict is the first step towards any war. So he didn't want to have any conflict, and he's going to be saying yes for everything that anybody says. That's the reason why he didn't oppose to any of the 13 years of exile or House of Lac. He just kept quiet. Yes. um, but any kind of different perspective, any deeper reflections, thoughts, anyone?
Mm, Not so much, but just something that I remember. So I was asked this question by a friend few years ago. And to respond to that question, I don't know what I just remember that I went to YouTube and I looked up for CCP's answer for this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those time we used to read BG and Bhagavad Gita in the morning, and I
Oh,
used
yeah.
to refer to CCP's answer.
Yes, yes.
The
Those times.
only yeah, the
Yeah.
only part I remember was that he mentioned to see it as Krishna's orchestration, and how Yudhishthir Maharaj chose
Yeah.
Draupadi as the ultimate option to gamble. Like he gambled his brothers first, and then himself, and then Draupadi. So,
Mm.
like, that's the part I remember. I do not remember the entire answer he gave.
Mm. Yeah, that is definitely one perspective which I have put. Before we take Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, there is one comment from Lekha I just like to read. Just like how Duryodhan had Shakuni represent him, if Yudhishthir Maharaj had Krishna roll the dice, Duryodhan might have had to go to Vanawas. I wonder if this was an intentional avoidance. Yeah, actually, Krishna was not even invited to that, right? Krishna was supposedly did not even know about this. That is what I remember about the storyline. Because if he did, he would be immediately saving Draupadi when he was. I mean, it would not even come to that point, of course. But Krishna was not even invited. Yeah. So yeah, that would have been nice, like to have the uncle represent on both sides. Yeah, that would be like a game changer. But I wish it was like that. Yes. Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. You have to.
So, like, I'm thinking in terms of Akrita Droha here. So, Yudhishthir kind of did gamble. He gambled on the hope that there is a chance that he might bounce back in the game, right?
Mm,
And how Akrita Droha fits in here is he did not want to do anything that will disrupt the gambling match, that
mm,
might disrupt and cause a conflict,
yeah.
but continue the game with the hope that at least, if I start getting back my footing in the game, then
Mm,
maybe Draupadi doesn't have to go. You know,
yes.
so the Akrita Droha mentality, along with that hope
Correct.
that he might bounce back in the game, maybe
Yeah.
that's why he gambled his wife. And in terms of why he hesitated to follow the Lord's instruction, yeah, that I don't know. Like, of course, on one level we can say that, Lord wanted to set an example of morality being lower than transcendental morality. That is often what we say, right?
Mm,
But
mm,
I don't know what Mahabharat says, or what Mahabharat
mm,
Tatparya Nirnay written by
mm,
Madhvacharya, what he says in that. Uh,
mm.
yeah. But
Yeah.
this would,
That's
yeah,
a
I
good
mean,
point. Yeah.
second one could be his attachment to his
Yeah.
dharmic inclination.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like to see what other people have to say. Lekha and Nandini and Ritesh Prabhu. Happy birthday, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah, Lekha Mataji can go first if
Sure.
she.
Yeah, sure. Yes. I think she raised her hands. Lekha?
Uh,
Oh,
so Mataji, can you hear me now?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So, Mataji, I don't know if you've heard about Villiputtar Bharatam. It's like the Tamil commentary on Mahabharatam.
Mm,
So there is some explanation regarding this even there, where there were few reasons that were cited. I don't know like h- how to like reconcile, but one thing was, even he asks the question if Krishna was in asked to represent Yudhishthira, just like how Shakuni was representing Duryodhana, then the outputs would have been different. But the second one was also that Yudhishthira Maharaj was so attached to like his identity as a person of dharma, that there was no like, it was like stopping the game would be very much against his identity, and so he kept playing and playing and playing. And Shakuni knew about this well. So Shakuni, every round he was gambling more and more of his family members. He would be like, oh, pledge Nakula now or pledge Arjuna now. If you win,
Mm.
you'll get everyone back. You pledge
Mm.
Draupadi, if you get
Yeah.
everything, you will get everything back.
Yeah.
So he kept like showing him the carrot
Mm.
and also like pulling the carrot away from him inch by inch. And also after they played this game, what happens is the first round they lose. They all go back to Indraprastha. Draupadi, like she's mad now. Krishna is involved, but what they do is Draupadi is like, now I want you to go, and they go and play the second time, and that's
Mm.
when they actually go to Vanavas. So they play two rounds of the dice game with them. Second time Draupadi say in the first round they actually get back all of their riches,
Mm.
but Draupadi says, I don't want any. I'm like, I don't want a dhan from them. Now you
Mm.
play, you lose again, then we will go to Vanavas with dignity, and then we will come back. We'll either claim the throne or it will be war. So there
Mm.
are these aspects to it, like Yudhishthira Maharaj's attachment to his identity and just like chasing the carrots.
Yeah.
And Viliputara also says that like he didn't want. After a point, he was so ashamed that he didn't want Krishna to know about what he had done. So he was
Mm.
trying to salvage the situation without involving Krishna.
Krishna.
Um, yeah, but I've not really like read thoroughly about this. These are all just coming from like whatever I understood from lectures. I could be wrong, but these are just some of the thoughts that were floating around.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, the first one kind of aligns with what Jagannath Gopal Prabhu also says, is that, the stake, maybe there is a
Yeah,
hope with that stake, right?
yeah.
That is one thing. Yeah, second one, I'm not sure about. Yeah, I've not
Hmm.
completely I remember reading that prose when I was young, but I don't remember
Uh, uh,
exactly now what it is. Yes, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, maybe I'll do some research there as well. Yeah. Nandini and Ritesh Prabhu?
Yes. Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and of course, I don't have an answer to this. I'm just thinking of what can we like, so to say, like learn or kind of just like what can we churn from this situation. So
Mm,
it was more like we often tend to judge someone by their actions, but actions consequence sometimes unfold in a mysterious way. So
mm,
what matters when we judge other person is their intention, whereas when we judge ourselves, our action matters.
So
But
when
we
we
switch it around. We judge other people's action, and when we
Mm.
have to console ourselves, we say, like, even if the action was not right, we say, oh, but my intention was right. But
Oh,
it has to
beautiful.
be
Yeah.
other way around.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Wow,
So
that's very beautiful. Yes. Very beautiful angle. Yeah. So, but in this case, what do you think?
his
Uh,
intention was not wrong, even though
mm.
he did the gamble and yeah, even
So
like
you think the Yudhishthir was justifying his own intention by doing that?
not justifying his own intention. It's more uh, like his intention in the whole game was not wrong, and that's what we should look at. That's how I look at, like, I want,
Ah, yes,
like,
yes. Okay.
but of
Yeah,
course,
his intention was not to
like, steal away things. Yeah,
defame Draupadi, right?
it was
Or
not like a gamble thing for him per se. It was a gamble thing for Duryodhan and Sakuni. Of course, they
Mhm.
came up with all these plans. So if you are
Mm,
judging Yudhishthir based on what happened, that
yeah,
would be yeah, like, not right. His intention was to just, like, have a
yeah,
friendly relationship with their like cousins, go back to their home,
yeah,
create that
yeah.
thing. So but
So
the things unfold.
here is one twist of a question. So when in the second one, when Krishna asked him to lie, right?
Mm,
He hesitated a little bit. He hesitated. He wasn't defiant, but he hesitated. But how come there was not even a hesitation in the first case, right? Like you would think that if hesitation was there based on his morality, because he has a high morality that he will not tell a lie, right?
mm,
That made him hesitate. Now, it is his own wife, right? How come there was no hesitation? So these were like contradicting, right? And I mean, there could have been an hesitation, but there was no apparent proof in the Mahabharata or anybody who's explaining about the situation that Yudhishthira Maharaj hesitated and then he did. Maharaj just gambled. That's it. One after another, he just kept gambling. Right? There was no question of that hesitation. So, yeah, how would we justify that?
yeah.
That was my biggest thing to, when I started, okay, in halfway down the line, I would be honest, I was even planning to switch over to Ambarish Maharaj.
Yeah.
But
The
I
way
was, yeah.
the way I see it is like, of course, for a person who is pious, they don't know the extent of how worse a person can go to, like how bad that person can be to go into like getting their way. And given that he still considered without that Ajat Shatru mindset
Mm,
that he's still my cousin brother, he won't do any
mm,
harm. Like that was like, of course, it was in
mm,
the face, like with one Avrat poisoning Bhima. Like it was very evident that he could very well say that it is his, like he is the enemy, but because of
yeah.
this thing, Ajat Shatru, he never saw
Mm,
him as a Shatru. Like how far can he
mm,
go? Like, and
mm,
Lord sometimes does that also
mm,
for glorifying their devotees when they're doing
yeah.
good, also to
Yeah.
show how a person can go to the extent to their ego to
Yeah.
actually satisfy their ego so that Krishna like does
Yeah.
all these pastimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one way to look at it from.
Correct, Prabhu. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. After that, I think I'll wrap up this conversation.
Sorry, it's very controversial, so I have so many thoughts. But anyway, I'm just reading up a little. Just a quick thing. So apparently, the sequence of gambling was Yudhishthir first gambled himself, then his brothers, then Draupadi. So the
Yes.
technicality of the game is that, so what happened in the game is when Yudhishthir apparently didn't have anything to gamble or anyone
Ah,
to gamble,
right.
Shakuni manipulated him saying that, hey, your wife is there. And then
Correct.
he made use of the technicality that he has now become their slave because he had already gambled himself and lost.
Mm,
So
mm.
they kind of manipulated and forced him to gamble Draupadi.
Yeah.
And then in
Yeah.
that Bhishma, like Draupadi actually questioned the legality of this. Like
Mm,
she said, if he's already a slave, how can he gamble me?
correct. Yes. Yes.
And
She asked in front of the
yeah,
others. Yes.
and then Bhishma there tried to make some technical analysis saying that, in some Dharma Shastras, it says that even a slave has some right over his wife or something like that. It was all very messy back then, but yeah. So that is one perspective. But even in that, his Akrita Droha comes out, you see. Like he he was a slave, and then Shakuni manipulated him or suggested that he gamble his wife, and then he wanted to be Akrita Droha. He didn't want to defy that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
looks like he took it too far from one angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, all of you are like, very, very, rightly touched all the points actually. Um, So yes, the first point is that the Kshatriya's code of conduct is that cannot refuse a challenge. That's why Yudhishthira Maharaj accepted to be even gamble. Um, then there is this moral crisis versus ethical crisis. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu talks about this. I think that's what Nupur is also trying to say, I think, right? So the moral crisis is, yes, I will not lie or steal, right? That is your moral, like no matter what happens. But if, let's say, my daughter health is at stake and I have to tell a lie, that's an ethical crisis. Would I say so that I can save my daughters? So it is like there are couple of things in place, right? That is where, where do we draw the line of morality versus what is the right ethics? Should I save my daughter or should I save myself with a lie? Yes, Prabhu. Ritesh Prabhu, Nandini.
Yeah, I have a similar question. I'm like just adding on to your question because this was something that um, we also talked about, me and Nandini, at one point. Like, if we teach or if we kind of cultivate a soul, a child, to just be like, oh, we need to serve, how to not become a doormat in that kind of situation, how to not let other
Mhm.
people just, crush you in
Yeah,
this practical way.
yeah.
And like, do we even have to think about that part as a parent? Yeah, I have some thoughts, but I'll wait for if other people have thought about this thing. But yeah, I'm
Sure.
open.
Yeah, this is a great point to add actually to for the discussion. Let me just wrap up these two thoughts that I came up with
Sorry. Yeah.
um, from listening to all the lectures and also reading Prabhupada's purport is like very complete on its own. So in that, yeah, he talks about the moral versus ethical crisis. Yes, Yudhishthira Maharaj goes through that moral and ethical crisis, and he, like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, and to some extent, I think Ritesh Prabhu also pointed this out, that there was a hope in that every stake, that yes, if I stake Bhima, I would get everybody back. If I stake Nakul and Sahadev, I would get everybody back. If I stake Draupadi, I would get everybody back. That it was done with that intention of getting, like, everybody, like, redeeming his own thing. But yes, of course, what he did not know is the malice on the other side, where the dice were all loaded. There were loaded dice, right? The loaded die that he was not aware of. Um, and even if he was aware, I don't think that would have made any big difference, because he did not have any malice in his heart, like Akrita Droha, like Jagannath Gopal Prabhu was saying. That, we are coming from what is right, what is wrong, who's right, who's wrong. But for him, there is, he's that is in his DNA to not, if you put us in his shoes, right? Everything that other person does is for his own good. That's what he thought. That he was not, there is no malice against him. And so there is no way that he is going to think in a differently, right? But yes, I think Nupur suggested this. I think the spiritual perspective also, Yudhishthir actions were kind of orchestrated by the Lord, right? So that he can ultimately demonstrate that he's saving Draupadi later on. I mean, that became like the crucial point in that whole episode of how Draupadi's Vastraharan, and how Krishna supplied, just instantaneously when she raised both her hands in submission, in surrender. So he shows is a true example of how a surrender should be. And yes, so it is, the Lord's way is kind of inconceivable in one sense, like how, what he's trying to teach. But Ritesh Prabhu said at the end, how we should not be treated like a doormat. Like, Yudhishthira Maharaj was treated like a doormat in this case. And everybody was taking advantage of his niceness, him being Akrita Droha. Everybody was taking advantage of him. And but the the Lord protected him because he was acting dharmically, and of course he just did not have any malice in his heart. So that attracts Krishna, and no matter who, the entire world could be against us, but if Krishna is with us, then ultimately the winning is our side. So that is what this episode shows. And as far as the why do he hesitate to follow, is that it is not that he was completely defiant. Being defiant is different from being hesitating. He is hesitating not because he wanted to go against the word of Krishna, or he was hesitating because he had to lie to his own teacher. That was his momentary hesitation, and that for that Krishna had showed that, okay, if you don't put the Krishna's will ahead of your own will. Remember, I think I mentioned this point in when the Gopal Bhatta Goswami also, like how to put our like our Guru or Krishna's desire more than our own desire, right? To please them. This is one of those situations where, if we don't put Krishna's or a higher um, will of the Supreme Lord more than, if you don't give that as a priority and we give priority to our own will, then we are actually his chariot was always above 4 inches above the ground. It was floating because of his 100% you know um, following the truthful nature and stuff. But not because he lied that chariot came down, but because he hesitated, that chariot went down. That is to show that the more we align ourselves to the higher will, the better off we'll be lifted from this material world and material miseries. So yeah, so that is the kind of. So I mean, if anybody has any thoughts about what Ritesh Prabhu said about how not to become a doormat, yes, we can have that discussion as the last point of discussion at this point. So if anybody has any thoughts on what I said, or what has been said in this whole thing, yeah. Everybody look puzzled, whoever has that video on. Either you're not convinced with the answer or you were expecting something else. But I think I was kind of convinced, because I felt like when Krishna is there with us, it really, that's all matters. And like what Bhishma Dev said, Brahmanas, God, and religion. I think the three things, one should be covered. I think somewhat like our Guru Shastra in that kind of an alignment. Yeah.
Definitely how you summarized your answer was perfect, Mataji. I don't definitely it made sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
In
you.
terms of Ritesh Prabhu's question, I just like to weigh in that these examples are superlative.
Yeah.
Like Yudhishthir Maharaj, or even the Goswamis, for instance. Like we
Yeah.
can take out principles and try to follow in their footsteps, but we can't imitate them in the name of, like, we can't be Akrita Droha to the extent that Yudhishthir Maharaj was. So for it's not that Yudhishthir Maharaj was forcing himself to be Akrita Droha, it was organically coming out from within him. So that part is there, so we can't imitate. But then at the minimum, even if we have to, I think initially you mentioned, right, Mataji, like in certain cases when the external Ajatashatru principle is not possible to apply, right? At least
Yeah.
at the minimum, we can try to have an Akrita Droha attitude.
Yeah.
So we might have to retaliate, we might have to stand up for ourselves. when
Mm.
things are not going well, especially when it's affecting Krishna consciousness. So,
Mm.
but and that may not mean necessarily externally being humble or externally letting people push us. But at least internally, we can have that thing that I'm retaliating in this because
Mm.
it's needed, but I don't have any inherent enmity for this person like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe that is one reconciliation, but I'll let others add. It's an often asked question. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's very hard to inculcate this two principles in our lives, but um, it's possible. It is difficult, but it's not impossible. Yeah. Yeah, so it's 10 o'clock. I think I'm just respecting everybody's time if people want to.
There is one question, Mataji, in the chat
Oh, okay.
by Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu Manjari Gopi Mataji. I have a question on our current discussion. Why even discuss these when these are not relevant or maybe far-fetched for us in current times? What is the learning or point of discussing such characters like Yudhishthir Maharaj?
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so that Yudhishthir Maharaj was the king of the earth at that time. So he was, like I said, he was there to establish dharma. We are not called for like that to establish anything, but um, you know, like how it is mentioned as one of the qualities of Vaishnava. And Yudhishthira Maharaj perfectly fits the bill in this, in the sense that, he was not only externally he didn't have any enemies, but internally also he didn't have any ounce of malice. So how do we, become like that bumblebee and not become like a fly? Like at least to that extent, I think we can see ourselves like, how do we see only good in others? I think that is also one of the qualities. Like how to see good. I've forgot what is the exact quality in that, but um, yeah, how to develop this quality of having no malice in our hearts against anybody, no harm to anybody, right? So that at least we can take. It's not it is only far-fetched when we think that we are going to make a greater impact, but we can make little impacts even in our own little world, by changing our um, our viewpoint. This is just my thing. I think I was not let down by this when I was reading about Yudhishthira Maharaj's qualities. I was not thinking that, oh, it's not possible for me. I was actually quite inspired, even though I've, like I said, far fetched. But I was actually inspired by it. That it is possible to some extent, even if I did something, in my life. Like if somebody were to say something, comment something about what I did, or how maybe if I get a comment about this class that your class was terrible, then I will be able to at least be a krita droha to that person to some extent. That is my answer. Mm, I don't know. I think all the qualities, all the personalities that we are going to think about, read about, and all the remainder of the 24 qualities are all going to be like extraordinary people. We are not going to read about, you know, Ramesh, Suresh,
One thing that
Mahesh.
Maharaj was mentioning in a class recently is that we say, right, hearing about Krishna's pastimes purifies us. So he said that hearing about Krishna's devotees' pastimes, like hearing about Krishna's devotees, is also equally purifying.
Hmm.
So there may not be any direct application for us, but just that act of hearing
Yeah.
is equal to Krishna Katha. So that is why we hear. Applies to Goswamis, applies to the 26 qualities that we are doing. And another thing is that same, like I had done this AIR acronym. Not everything that we hear can be applied. Some things can be taken as inspiration, and not everything can even be taken as inspiration. We just have to relish application, inspiration, and relish.
Oh, wow.
So
I should remember this. Yes. Wow.
those three are there, and then we'll have to see which one fits where depending on guidance. So yeah, just my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I was at the I level. Yeah. Not A. When I read this, like, oh, inspiring, very inspiring to read about Yudhishthira Maharaj. And I was completely convinced towards the end that, yes, he was this personality that, yeah. It was very late, like yesterday, even at this time yesterday, I was like, yeah,
It's one of those things that although outside everything is nice, but it keeps hitting you inside.
yeah,
Why like this? Why like this?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is all I have to share. Devotees, thank you so much. And please forgive me for any mistakes that I've made or any things that I've said that's incorrectly or misrepresented our scriptures or Acharya's words. That is only because of my impurity or my ignorance and nothing to do with the actual message or the philosophy. So yes, Vancha Kalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Manavanam Anantakoti Vaishnavam Ki Jai. Thank you for patiently listening to this lecture. Hare Krishna.